Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Gyle here, and welcome back to the Forged Alliance Forever promotional series. Second cast of the afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. That's right, just in case you were totally sickened or grossed out by my performance in that last game. I know that I'm not exactly entertaining to watch in a playing capacity. But anyway, call it what you want. Midweek madness, 2 for the price of 1. Or making up for yesterday. It's going to be a ladder match, and it's going to take place on Haven Reef. So let's go over to the game zone and see how these guys are going to get on. So Haven Reef, you know what, I'm not 100% sure if I've ever actually cast a game on this map. I've played it a few times myself. It's quite enjoyable. It's very unusual shape. You've got this central landmass. These are the player 1 and 2 positions. I always thought it would make more sense if this was 1 and 2. You'd get a longer, perhaps more interesting game, but there we have it. It makes for, I suppose, a more tactically simple game, a more well-represented games in terms of ladder match. You've got immediate access on T1 land spam, which is probably a good idea. Anyway, let's take a look at the players and their locations. Up here in the blue corner, going Cybrin, it's Decisive, and he is opening first land, second land as well to go with it. And his opponent down here in the red corner, seen a bit of this guy recently, it's RA's Mad Mozart. He's going Cybrin as well, so it's a mirror matchup, and he's opening first land, second air. So we're going to see any airplay early on. It's probably going to be coming out of his corner. And of course, the main area of conflict is going to be this central land bridge. You usually get quite a lot of spam heading off, and it's, you know, it's kind of tug of war thing more often than not, shifting up and down this lane as people do drops and expand and try and fight over the side islands. In fact, we've already got a little bit of movement on that front. The first to make the move seems to be Deja Vu. He's going the long way round on foot, taking that engineer all the way over there. Where's he actually headed? Going straight for the rear corner, going to get all of that mass and promptly construct a factory. He's not going to build any of the mexes on the way. He wants to secure that as quickly as possible, and then a long click A move, click attack move to recycle as much mass as is humanly possible. And now finally RA is going to make his move as well. He's also on the way to both islands simultaneously, and I didn't realize you could do that. I always thought that cliff was larger than that, but it's apparently not. You can do a distance build from the ocean down here up onto the cliff. That's what he's going to do, and it's a good way to do it rather than expending all of that mass and energy on a transport and flying engineers right over there. It's a good way to get started. And in fact, he's going to have his factory operational first, I think, if distance is anything to go by. Not judging for eco, of course, but it doesn't look like it's going to be that way. And that's definitely not the right way around to do things. Deja is using this engineer that he's on this sort of extended, what is that, plateau? No, I suppose headland, isn't it? To go and do it, but he's not going to do it anyway. He was planning to take that right the way, long way around and do a distance build with it, but that bomber puts an end to that plan. Nice bit of micro though, keeps that second engineer safe on that other pass. That bomber still with 50% of its HP could still cause some damage, circling around looking for another victim, but deciding not to stick it out. He's going to peel off and look for another avenue of attack. Now the question is, did Mozart see that engineer with that scout plane? He probably did, and if I were him I would be sending bombers up that way now, which is exactly what he's doing. And this is going to give him pretty good start on the side islands. He's already there down here with this one, and 75% done or so with that factory, and pausing the construction of this one, as it looks like he's about to do with that bomb. Yes, he is. Will mean he has the first factory up running on the top left island as well. So it looks like the early wins and the edges are going to, or the corners I should say, are going to go to Mozart. But he hasn't spent much time erecting any defense or building on much troops up on the mainland, and Deja Vu is responding to all of this by sending a large sort of T1 force equipped with lots of moles and the odd Sky Slammer and a Medusa and the ACU. This is going to be quite tough to repel for Mozart, and these little victories on the corners could be rendered moot if he gets shooed off this main starting location, but we'll have to see how it works out for him. For the moment, he's pulling back to safer territory. He's going to leave that factory. Wise decision. It's going to be a tough one for him to grab this little engineer that's been busy reclaiming these civilian trucks not going to get too far with it. Look at the size of the Mantis compared to a truck, man. Look at that. These things are huge. This gives you an idea how large the experimentals are. But one single Jester is going to get in on the action. Luckily for Deja Vu, he does have a few Sky Slammers. If he wants to make use of that Jester, really, he's going to have to deal with those Sky Slammers first. 1, 2, 3 or so Sky Slammers in there. Mozart getting to work with his ACU. Still not focusing on the Sky Slammers, though, at the moment. But that's a lot of T1 spam flowing down this central pathway. Mozart already down to 4,800 HP. He's going to have to back up. He's got some point defense in place already. A second one manages not to get finished. That has not been completed. So he needs to continue off and back up into the water. Deja Vu has HP to spare. He's wanting to knock as much as he can off Mozart. Maybe thinking about ending this here and now. It's going to be tough to do so, but he can certainly take out this base. Down goes the auto gun thanks to all of the Medusas. And bombers coming into the mix as well. Mozart has the interceptors to defend against that. It actually looked like that bomber landed some bombs on top of that Jester. One of the many amusing things that can happen in this game, of course, and its engine, the way it works. But Mozart right down into the red. Just 1,800 hit points left on the clock. Deja Vu going to throw together a tracer further back here. Wants to be able to probe with these bombers, but be able to draw these interceptors back to get popped out so he can continue to press with the air game. That's nice work from him. In comes more spam, but it's not overwhelming. It's going to be tough to finish all of this. He needs to knock out this power, really. Use these Medusas on the ridge if he can to knock down some of these lines of T1 P-Gens. That would really slow up production. But if you look at the expansion, Mozart's completely dominated up here. He's got all of the mexes, and he's making a move down here, but Deja Vu has managed to erect a land factory, so that's not an entire win in that bottom right hand corner for Mozart, at least not at the moment. Deja Vu continues to press. He's not letting up, doesn't want to allow Mozart any time to get re-established down here. A steady trickle of T1 continues down the central land bridge, and Mozart continuing to try to erect as much PD as he can. It's a tough call. Every time he seems to get close to finishing one, ACU or Medusa turns up and puts an end to it, but we've lost a factory down there for Mozart. More interceptors flying overhead, and a lone sliver at the back there. Attack submarine for Cybran lets us know that there has been some engagement in the naval game on behalf of Deja Vu. He's thrown together a naval factory right at the back here. Imagine a couple of frigates would do around here. Can knock out all of this power. Doesn't want to expend the resources to get involved with the T2 game on Navy yet. That would be far too expensive. He needs to continue to apply pressure. But it's quite interesting. Take a look at the mass in this game so far. Mad Mozart 39 mass. That's just jumped to 44. That's not based off reclaim. I don't think. Actually, it's dropped back down to 39, so maybe it was. But 39 to 21, so a significant economic advantage. But what's interesting is, as thinking that he'd already grabbed control essentially of this island, Mad Mozart has not been producing land vehicles. He's just been producing build capacity, and now T1 spam trickling out of this northern factory on this bottom right hand island for Deja Vu stands to cause great anguish to Mozart if he can finish off all of these units of build capacity, which he does. Down to just one engineer. Boom, down it goes. That auto gun will not get completed, and now this is controversially looking like a win for Deja Vu. Mozart, having looked like he was about to secure it, is not going to be successful. Still, however, the battle rages on this main landmass. Deja Vu throwing an upgrade on his commander, and we're starting to see the emergence of some tridents, some frigates. If you can get it around here and start working on this power grid, needs to avoid the ACU, of course. Overcharges would be very detrimental indeed. He does have access to overcharge. He has energy storage in place. Of course, that would be a good thing to target. There it is. And not only that, the volatility of the explosion would take out a ton of engineers as they are currently located, although they are now moving off just as I say that. But look at that, over at the bottom right hand corner, Deja Vu successfully eradicated Mozart's presence, and suddenly it's gone from looking like, well, despite the pressure, looking like Mozart was still generally in reasonable control. He had both islands and was ahead on mass. Deja Vu now catching steadily. You can imagine once he gets these other mass points in tow, he will pull ahead. And Mozart still unable to grab any territory, and that's going to get even harder now. Deja Vu must have placed the T2 upgrade on the comm, the engineering suite. Yes, it is. And Cerberus turrets are being rapidly created, so we're getting a little bit of a point defense creep now that's pushing its way into Mozart's base, and that's going to make it even harder for Mozart to punch his way out with his ACU. He's still only sporting around 4.5k hit points on the clock on that ACU, so he needs to be careful, doesn't want to throw it away unnecessary, and he's getting continually harassed from the air as well, so a regular nightmare at the moment for Mozart. Taking all kinds of damage, down into the red, 2,000 hit points left only. Needs to get his big red backside into the water ASAP as soon as possible. 1,000 hit points, and he strays out of range of the Cerberus turrets and straight into the range of this sliver. He starts to reclaim, and he manages to do it. He has also got one of his own slivers in the mix. Where has that come from? He's got a naval factory up here, so he's starting to produce naval units that is going to help him keep his head above water in this game. Luckily, Deja Vu has switched up to production of Tridents. If he'd have had any more submarines on the field, that would have been game, or at least in this area, certain of it, that would have been game. Or at least he would have had to have pulled back onto the shore down here, but he was so low on HP. And now, this base that has stood so well for the last 13 minutes looks like it's about to finally crumble. These factories going pop one by one. Soon that air factory about to capitulate to that fire. He's got more over here though, so he's been steadily building up here. He's been ready to relocate his base. Of course, the important thing, can he get his commander safely over there? I think he can. Just one Trident working on the build capacity up here around this naval facility. That build capacity in turn trying to spam together a torpedo launcher. It manages to complete. And that Trident not hanging around any longer, going to move off to safer climb, but that's definitely a lose on that main land mass, that central land mass for Mad Mozart. Down goes the energy, and you can see Deja Vu just pulling ahead now in the maths game, 33 to 29. Who's done the better of the reclaim side of things? Well, that's clearly Mad Mozart. A snifter under 9k banked mass-wise in reclaim for Mozart, as opposed to just the 4k that Deja Vu has picked up. So he's been doing considerably better. Of course, he's been throwing a lot of mass at Mozart in terms of T1 spam, but it has paid off. He has managed to grab it. And now it's going to be a tough ask for Mozart to come back, relegated to just the one island. He has managed to do a cheeky distance build, though, with his engineer. He's thrown together an autogun, which has taken out these two mexes on this plateau. Very cheeky indeed. I'd love to see him spam together a factory. Excuse me, but he's probably expecting a counterattack on that position, being as that is deep inside Mozart's territory. But look at this, all very blue now on this side of the map. Just a, well, I suppose about 30% of the map left for Mozart, but he's doing nicely on the naval game. These slivers shooing away the Tridents, and down they go. And now I think Deja Vu's going to have to commit to the naval game a little bit more seriously, but he's been continuing to harass that ACU, still on just 1200 HP. He was going after it with a Cormorant T2 torpedo bomber for Cybran, but there's far too many interceptors in the air thanks to all of these air factories on the edge of this coastline here. It's allowed him to sneak his way back into this game potentially, and he's ecoing much better. So Deja Vu has a good 70% of the map right now, but he needs to start upgrading his economy and soon, because Mozart, as part of his evac routine from down here, has focused heavily on base building up here and upgrading his eco. He's got core T2 mass all around here, and he's running nearly double the eco of his opponent right now. Deja Vu not currently focusing too heavily on economy, and that needs to change. Doesn't matter how much map control you have, if you don't upgrade your eco, you will lose. That's a little bit of an exaggeration. If it's 100% map control, you won't, but you know what I'm saying. It's all well and good, but T1 mass extractors won't get you very far. This little band of units here from Deja Vu move forward to clear out the last remnants of Mozart's structures on this main land mass. All that's left is this one autogun on the cliff face. Love that cheeky little build. But Deja Vu's beginning to move forward in the right direction. He's sort of edging out of the 20s, back into the 29 now, but needs to get on it, and get on it fast. And you can see Deja Vu sending in a engineer there. Was expecting that obviously to have come from a bomber or something. Didn't know that there was an autogun. Still hasn't seen it. Needs to scout that. Otherwise, he's going to continue to send engineers over there probably, and continue to lose them. But we do now have T2 air on the field for Deja Vu. I've said it before, I don't really like that. I mean, because Mozart is burrowing in now. He's just on this one corner. So the advantage of air, of it being mobile, being able to get around the map, isn't going to get you very far. He needs to eco up, and he needs to win Navy. That's what's going to win him this game. But he's had a significant jump in eco, up to 43 mass, so he's finished some upgrades somewhere. But the trouble is Mad Mozart is upgraded as well, and these slivers have now taken down Deja Vu's main naval factory. He spammed up a couple of others down here. That is the handy thing when you've got lots of map to spare. But a little assault from the air has taken out almost all of the build capacity around this naval factory, which has now reached T2 and is producing Siren cruisers. That could be major issues for Deja Vu, but nice work there from him in the moment. And the economy is beginning to merge again. And this cormorant, well, these cormorants just working on killing off these subs. He now has access to T2 himself. Of course, none of these guys able to build any kind of missile-based cruisers, as they've both gone Cybran. Makes life slightly more tricky from a bombardment perspective. But I think lots of Salems and Sirens would do you very nicely indeed. That Siren knocking out one of the cormorants. It does get its torpedoes away, but doesn't cause a huge amount of damage. Deja Vu still investing quite heavily in torpedo bombers. Needs to take this down if he can. It's ever so expensive to do it from the air. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 torpedo bombers. Quite intrigued to see how cost effective that is. Who wins more out of that if he knocks all of those out of the sky? Which he actually won't. Looks like Deja Vu's going to get out of there with a couple of them intact, although the interceptors come in and finish them off. And now we've got Barracudas in play from Mozart. But the eco for Deja Vu is taking him too long to get this T2 Navy out. And he's still behind Mozart in economy. Needs to get to work on upgrading these mexes. Not sure I would be upgrading these ones. I would probably be upgrading them down here. It's furthest away. Nice Nice little run there from that Corsair. Lots of Corsairs, in fact, going after Mozart's comm. Nicks him very badly, gets him down to 2,000, 1,500, 850. Another pass could do it, but there's too much T1 static anti-air, too many traces, and now a cruiser as well. Mozart dancing around, getting away from a few others, just potentially avoiding catastrophe, but in come the Barracudas now. He needs to be really careful. Doesn't want to hang about in the water. He's got one of his own. Mozart down to 1,100 again, but he's not going to get any more playtime with that Barracuda. Defending Barracuda and the T1 torpedo launcher, dealing with that without any real difficulty. So Mozart avoiding the snipe very nicely indeed, and still pulling ahead once again in eco. Strange, strange game this is. Deja Vu needs more build capacity down here. Needs to spam up some upgrades on these T1 mexes as soon as possible. And could we have a little bit of a drop here? It seems like that's what Deja Vu's gearing up for. He's got what looks like 8 Mantis on a Dragonfly, or maybe 7. Missing one on the right there. Problem is getting a lot of T2 naval units on the field for Mozart, and 2 cruisers. Life gets ever so much more difficult when you're trying to knock out naval units with torpedo bombers or fighter bombers. One of them does succumb eventually. Almost all of those air units have been taken down. We've got some whalers coming in as well. You see, they don't last very long. But the drop has commenced. Luckily, he managed to remember to bring some Medusas in the mix. They take down the autoguns, but this Salem, the range on him has been instrumental in fending off this attack, preventing it from causing any real major damage. A nicer option in hindsight would have been to drop in here somewhere, but this is just getting harder and harder all the time for Deja Vu to get any kind of traction in here. He needs to slow down, think less about attacking. He hasn't got Mozart on the ropes anymore. It feels like he does, because he's had Mozart so close to death on the ACU a bunch of times. He's got so much map control. Of course, we have the benefit of seeing the mass differential. 70 mass per tick going into Mozart's coffers, as opposed to the meager 43 by contrast to Deja Vu. But he needs to sit back, and he needs to eco, and he needs to just defend and concentrate on holding on to what he's got. If he ecos hard, he can catch up and he can win this, but at the moment he's so far behind. Another large air force coming in. Needs to take out that cruiser. Renegades clatter the fire into the side of it. Finally take it down. In come the interceptors, going after the Renegades primarily, finishing off a few interceptors on their way. Corsairs and interceptors come in response from Deja Vu. But the Renegades have to bug out. That means he can't use them against these Salems to help defend his starting location. And now another cruiser to add to his woes. His eco is just roaring far too comfortably at the moment for Mozart. He's got far too far ahead. I've said far too many times. And now this looks extraordinarily bad for Deja Vu. About to lose his factory HQ on that air factory there. Gunship sent over to try and harass in some way. Might be successful in taking down a T2 Mex. There it goes. Starts work on the next, but a wave of Inties comes crashing overhead, knocking out each and every one of those Renegades. I cannot believe I'm seeing this, but I think this looks very much like a win for Mozart, having been literally on the verge of defeat and cornered for so much of this game. Well, he was in the jaws of defeat down here, very nearly sniped up here as well, but he's been penned into this edge of the map, and Mozart thinks he's got this. The cocky gamesmanship comes into play. You see the cliffs there affording some protection for the moment at least to that T1 mechs as they come round and reprioritize to the land factory on the other side, which caused so many issues initially for Mozart. That was the factory that gave rise to the fall of this bottom right hand island from his control. Mozart says, you literally have nothing to beat my navy with now, and you know what? I think he's right. He has very little left of anything at this point. And it goes like that sometimes in Soccer. He did so well in the early game. He pushed. He had Mozart on the ropes, but just that in itself has been what's cost him the game. That very feeling of, I've got this guy. And his only comeback now has been to throw the torpedo upgrade on the commander and try and use his comm to knock out the Salems first and then go after the cruisers. But I don't think he's going to be able to hold on to his naval factory. He has managed to produce a Barracuda. That might go some way to help. But there's an awful lot of Salems around here. If they can catch up, he won't be able to tank that fire on land or sea with his comm. Finishes off one of the Sirens. Barracuda comes out to try and distract these Salems, but I don't think he's going to be fooled by that. He's going to go straight after the commander. He knows he's got him. And down he goes like a bad case of dysentery. Boom, baby! Very nice comeback, Mozart, and that's why you must never ever neglect your eco, even when you think you've got someone. You've got the map control. It's so dangerous. But credit where credit's due. Deja Vu played stunningly in the first 10 or 15 minutes so of this game. Mozart was beaten back, and it's just an accident really of psychology that he managed to fall behind in this game after playing so well. Mozart managed to pull the victory, taking nothing away from Mozart, of course, who played just as well. But anyway, guys, I hope you like that. As always, more to come from me in the future. In the meantime, stay well and stay safe. This is Gyle, signing out.